So let's begin. Good afternoon, or good morning in my case. And thank you for the invitation, esteemed organization. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Daniela Cordova. I have a PhD in engineering science and circular economy. I am going to present my investigation titled Circular Economy in Mexico's electronic and cell phone industry. It is a recent evidence of consumer behavior. Going to the next slide, what we are going to see on this presentation is an introduction, the methodology of this study, and the main results, as well as the conclusions of this study. Circular economy models are increasingly referenced in international fora and on many countries' climate action agendas. The circular economy model is the movement away from linear models of production, consumption, and the final disposition of products toward more circular and sustainable processes. In the case of the study, particularly in the case of the electrical and electronic industry, circular economy should focus on optimizing the use, management, and recovery of resources and materials. According to the UN's Global E-Waste Monitor of last year, in 2019, 53 million tons of e-waste was produced globally, which represents a potential raw material value of 10 billion American dollars that can be recovered from e-waste. This work focuses on consumer behavior regarding electronic products in Mexico. This is a largely under-researched topic, not only in Mexico, but also in Latin America. The selection of Mexico as a case to study is highly relevant in the international arena. The country, with a population of almost 120 million people, is the second largest economy of Latin America and the second largest generator of e-waste, more particularly 1.2 million tons of e-waste was produced in Mexico. In Mexico, the electronic industry has significant potential for circularity. The economic production of electrical and electronic equipment for 2020 was estimated at 76.5 million of American dollars. This involves a high generation of e-waste in the country. Thus, it was imperative for the co-authors to start a new research and strategies on how to collect this waste to optimize and recover raw materials with the consumer. Going to the next slide, this analysis is based on a national survey carried out explicitly for this study in the year 2018. The main issue addressed in this survey were the environment usage, consumption patterns, and how people handle their end-of-life electronic products. Therefore, the general objective was to identify consumer behavior regarding electronic products in Mexico, and the specific objectives were understand the level of circularity of electronics in Mexico and inquire environmental awareness about disposing of electronic devices. The methodology of this research carry out a literature review and consultations with specialists on the circular economy, consumer behavior, as well as electrical and electronic products. The national survey was conducted in all 32 Mexico states. The size of the population, as I mentioned before, is 120 million people approx. Therefore, the sample size for the national survey was 1,000 people. As you know, consumer is the protagonist who can ensure the feasibility of a circular economy model in the electronic industry. For this reason, the present study analyzed key variables that help understand the consumer behavior in Mexico. The variable evaluated were the following: socioeconomic features, length of electrical and electronic equipment use, reasons to consider equipment obsolete, disposal modalities, repair, safe ways of recycling, and other topics. On the following slide, you can see the informant profile of the participants. 50% male and 50% female. Almost 60% of the interviewees belong to a medium socioeconomic level, and their ages fluctuated between 24 and 50 years of age. The most relevant results found in this study were the following. First, we have the behavior in the use of electronic equipment. As you can see on the slide, most of the respondents received their electronics in new conditions. And you can see in this figure, depending on the type of the electronic equipment, people use it for different amount of time. In many cases, the consumer did not dispose immediately, and you can see that they prefer to store them. This figure also shows that 39% of the interviewees used their cell phones for between 1 and 3 years, and later they gave them away or sold them on a second-hand market. Nevertheless, 41% reported that they used their cell phone for less than 1 year, since they had the opportunity that their cell phone plans allow them to upgrade once a year. In the case of desktop computers, the average time of use is between less than 1 year and 3 years. However, as you can see, 30% of the respondents stored them in their houses. Between 30 and 35% of the people did not dispose their equipment, and they stored them for possible use someday. In the next slide, you can see the end of life of an electronic equipment in Mexico. This figure illustrates how respondents dispose of their electronics. For example, we have that 31% of the respondents gave them away to a family member or a friend, while 22% sold them in a second-hand market. Despite it being the most harmful environmental decision with significant social externalities, you can see on the slide that 18% of the interviewees just throw away their equipment. The result of the final destination of electronic equipment in this new slide, you can see that in this figure, almost half of the respondents indicate that a lack of information was the main reasons that they did not return in their electronic devices. The second reason is the low economic return value, which can attribute to stores not granting an economic incentives. Interviewees stated that they earn more by selling their electronic products in a second-hand market than by handing it over to the distributor for recycling. And finally, in the mobile phone repair, this figure shows that 42% of the respondents will use their mobile phones for a longer period of time if the store where they purchase the phone offer them a free service to optimize their equipment. Also, 31 agree if the store included a scheduled battery change or replacement plan. Similarly, 14% mentioned that it would be better if the battery could be replaced more easily. Now, I am going to discuss a little bit of the results that I presented before. First, the investigation and the results show that with the correct strategy and participation of the stakeholders, it is possible to move toward a circular economy in the electrical and electronic industry in Mexico. Also, national survey show that recycling of electrical and electronic products could potentially be increased by establishing a collection schemes, by pickup, and by increasing the number of equipment collection centers. It is also imperative to develop an environmental education and awareness campaign to the citizens in Mexico. An incentive scheme should also be included an economic benefit for the actors in the circular chain, as well as sanctions or penalties that promote the responsible usage, disposal, recycling, and reuse of e-waste. This suggests that an incentive scheme such as reverse logistic model is necessary through which consumers could return equipment to producers. This might not be easy in Mexico, but in international experience in Brazil, the Netherlands, Japan, and Australia demonstrate that it is possible. This research also demonstrates that there is a wide opportunity to increase circularity in the industry. This requires a better understanding of consumer behavior regarding usage time, reasons for and means of disposal, and involvement in reparation and recycling of equipment to design suitable strategies. There is work yet to do with consumers in Mexico. We need to support them with educational programs, and this will increase their environmental awareness of these subjects. And finally, we can conclude that there is a shared responsibility from stakeholders that are directly and indirectly involved in the value chain of electronic products. The government, as a main stakeholder for circular economy, has limited information about circular models and consumer behavior. It is also urgent to create regulations that supervise and control marketing and sales renovation campaigns promoted by electronic suppliers. Those that increase the number of mobile phones in the market, even though many of these mobile phones still have 1 or 3 years of useful life. However, users still dispose of them. This investigation uh, also revealed that the consumption and use habits of electronic equipment and cell phones in Mexico and, and therefore illustrate priorities to account for the future actions of society, the government, and industrial sector. Finally, the results of this research maintain high relevance for Mexico's compliance with the commitments of the United Nations Framework Convention on climate change. The United Nations 2030 agenda, and its suitable development goals, particularly with regards to goals 9, 12, and 13. And as a matter of fact, the country is not only a signatory of the 2015 Paris Agreement toward climate neutrality, but was the first developing country to submit its intended nationality, determined contribution to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, comments, or suggestion, you can ask right now, or also you can send me an email. It will be a pleasure for me to answer your questions. Also, you can bring closer your cell phone camera to this code, and you can download my investigation. Thank you very much.